We're here, and we're making movies.
I'm in North Dakota.
You're making movies?
Yeah, North Dakota?
Making movies.
In North Dakota?
Are you familiar with North Dakota?
You know those two fellas you put me in touch with up there in Fargo?
Fargo, North Dakota.
Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Bismarck, North Dakota.
Dickens.
Monarch.
Jamestown.
Williston. Standing Rock.
North Dakota!
I've been making movies myself lately.
In North Dakota.
Making movies is the most wonderful thing in the world. And North Dakota. Well,
I come from North Dakota, and bigger, better country you can't find.
Today on the Film North Dakota podcast, we welcome back filmmaker Steven Gerald Warkel. Did I pronounce that right, Steven? I should have asked you before I hear. Steven is a returning guest to the Film North Dakota podcast. Steven is a indie director known for his low-budget films, including his feature film Hair Trigger and short films Ramen and Walk Away. Today, we're catching up with everything since then, including the lessons he's learned as an independent filmmaker and his new Minnesota-made film, Small Talk. Steven, welcome back to the Film North Dakota podcast. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
So for people who have not heard the previous episode, tell us a little bit about yourself here. You're not from North Dakota, but you have a lot of ties of making content in North Dakota.
I'm originally from Roseville, which is just like a suburb directly north of kind of both St. Paul and Minneapolis, but more St. Paul. I always liked making like YouTube videos with friends in like middle school, high school, just like dumb skit stuff that was really fun and like look back very fondly on. And then in high school, I had a film class with a really cool professor, and that kind of was where I was like, oh yeah, movies, film, that's fun. And then I really liked writing, and I thought at one point, I thought to myself, oh, I'll write a book. And then I was like, this is really hard. I'm not the greatest description writer. And then it's not easier, but like I looked at screenplay writing and I was like, oh, this is interesting because it's way more like a manual. And I kind of got into screenplay writing and writing in the film world. And then I just really like enjoyed that and thought that, reflected more on my abilities to like do videos. Cause again, just doing skits, and then that kind of developed into film and movies and other media. And since then I've kind of lived in Minnesota and North Dakota doing film and video work.
Your movies are very dialogue heavy. Are they all fully scripted?
It's all fully scripted, but I mean, there's definitely scenes where like I tell a lot of my people I work with, like, I don't care if you really say it, like how it's written, as long as it feels natural to you. And if you're saying the core of the thing, sometimes, they'll say it and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Like, how would you say it? And then they say it and it's like, that's so much better. Just do that. Ignore the script. So it's all very scripted, but we find it, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Well, that's so interesting. Yeah, so many of your scenes are just kind of long, one takes of people talking. I mean, I'm thinking of specifically Small Talk.
Yeah, definitely one of the walk and talks. My guess would be when he's revisiting his ex at the trail. I mean, going into Small Talk too, there was kind of some thoughts of like, well, how are we going to do these scenes? Like, how should we approach them? And I mean, I like doing coverage and being able to like really edit, but I also enjoy a good like long scene. And so some of those, I just watched some Eric Romer movies and just how he kind of would literally just like film people walking towards camera, and then he would just follow them, walk away, and you'd still hear them. And I was like, I like that.
I thought you did really great. That was my favorite part. A lot of those long takes here, and where the characters open up. And so it's interesting that a lot of that was scripted here. Do you also edit your own stuff here as well?
Mostly now, last few years. I mean, I love editing. I'm terrible with shortcuts. Like, I need to learn shortcuts. So my editing is not fast, but like I do love it. So lately I've been trying to do all of it.
So the last time we talked here, you were working with Glosser Images.
Yeah.
Which has since faced hundreds of consumer complaints, lawsuits, and a major investigation by the North Dakota Attorney General. I don't know what you want to talk about here, but what did you learn from that experience?
So coming out of school, I had some friends that worked at Glosser, and for anyone that doesn't know, which I feel like in Bismarck, no one would not know about this for not the best reasons. They were a wedding company, and I was shooting local news, and then went to Glosser, joined their team in summer 2019. Was there for a bit. Pandemic hit, and then I left in October of 2020. Shooting weddings was like everyone there. It was fun to work with the people there, like all the staff, like my coworkers, my friends from school. Like it was really great. Like just to like, oh, my job is to just shoot and edit video with these people. When the pandemic hit, I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave. I'm not like super comfortable with this. I'm gonna edit, like I'll freelance edit for you guys. So then I freelance edited for a few months, but then like before everything blew up, I'd be like waiting on a payment. And I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna edit more weddings unless I get a payment. And that seemed to be getting more regular and regular with me and everyone else. And then eventually there was one day where my friends who were still at the company at the time got like the email of like, and we're done. We're just done right now. And like everyone was like, kind of like, whoa, like what's happening? And I mean, I don't think it was a surprise because, there were signs that there was like struggles, but then like, again, it just started like snowball until like, oh, like this is just complete like mismanagement. There's no plan for all these people to have weddings. And I know myself had several people, would reach out and be like, oh, do you have my files? And my friends too. And for the I was already out of there by then, so I didn't have like, access to company stuff. I'm glad that I think some people were helped out, and I think some people like didn't have the short end of the stick, which was really unfortunate. But the way it collapsed was pretty shocking, and I'm kind of glad that I was gone before that happened because I know some people that got burned by it. They were freelancers and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of people got the short end of the stick there, and I do wonder, do you think, the short films and the film kind of expansion, do you think that kind of led to all this, or do you think it was just mismanagement?
No, I mean, I definitely like. It's hard to say without knowing their finances. I mean, I know Jack like took an interest in film, and like I was always like, oh, that's cool. That's cool that he supports like filmmaking stuff. But then obviously when this stuff happened, it was like, man, I don't know if you should have been spending that money on a. And even like Hair Trigger, like we it was like in post production when everything collapsed, and like there was still like outstanding payments that needed to go to people. So like he originally owned the film, and like that's kind of like we agreed to do it for like the experience and to get a project. It's like it's yours, the Clauser film. But then in the end, we kind of had to like find like people to save the film because it would have otherwise just ended up on the cutting room floor basically, or in post production limbo. And so I definitely would guess it contributed. I mean, who knows if COVID didn't hit, maybe it would have survived as a company, but I can't imagine it helped, even though at the time, like, again, looking back, I'm very grateful for getting the chance to make some stuff and get some funding, but it maybe wasn't the best decision, but who knows at this point.
Well, led to your new feature film, Small Talk, which was shot in Minnesota here. How did that get started? It seems like a very personal story. Maybe first, can you describe kind of what it's about?
Just is that the movie's about this like vaguely young adult dude, 30 something, moving home from living out of town in Chicago, and he's moving back to the Twin Cities where he's originally from, and he's sort of grappling with where his place is in life. And on top of that, there's this nebulous potential terminal illness of a parent that he's dealing with, and how he's grappling with his inability to live in the present. And it's very much just like a talkie hangout movie. I mean, like it's not like a Linklater film like on that level, but like that's definitely like I think if someone was like, what's the vibe? It's like Linklater and Romero is probably like the closest thing. The most real thing is that it's like shot like in my parents' house and like in the neighborhood I grew up and like at this park that I love and like at this bar that I like. And so it's very like very personal in that element. But it's a lot of like inspiration from real life moments and then kind of like twisting them a bit. Like in my head, the film was always, what if I was like a more toxic version of myself who really loved Weezer? Like I like Weezer. I'm kind of more in the boat of like, he talks in the film where he's like, yeah, like they have like some really good albums and I like Okay Human and stuff, but I have like a friend and I've known people who like love Weezer. And I always just thought it was no one loves and hates Weezer more than a true Weezer fan, and so I just kind of was like, I want that to be a running thing of that, like he talks about it, but other people talk about Weezer too, and just like I just love that bit. Yeah, so yeah, not hyper autobiographical, but definitely like influenced and like, what if I had this experience? What if it went this way, and vice versa? And playing with that.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And really reminded me of you ever hear the word mumblecore? It might be old, but Jay and Mark Duplass. I think of those movies that were cut digitally and long kind of relationship stories, and really reminded me of that. Although I think you did a really awesome job on kind of taken it to another level, and just with some of your artistic choices and stuff, it just was really cinematic, and dramatic in ways that I don't think Mumblecore was. And so, yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and really, really awesome to see just an artist working, a filmmaker working, and trying to express a feeling and character development and all that interesting stuff. And you wear a lot of hats in this: writing, directing, producing, editing. I assume financing as well. I mean, maybe first talk about the financing, how you're able to fund this, and then how you're able to kind of do it all.
Well, at least in terms of like getting funding, like I don't come from money. I don't have like really the money to spend on anything like this. My producer friend Brady, he met this guy who was looking to be like an EP, just like wanted to make a movie, and we basically had kind of met him. I believe even Brady had met him through kind of trying to save Hair Trigger, and then also Brady was helping produce a indie film in the Twin Cities, and he had a hand in that. And he kind of put us all in touch and was like, hey, if you're really trying to make a movie and you want it to go well, like, here's a bunch of stuff we made. Here's Hair Trigger. Like, we can do this. If you're interested and you want to fund it, then great. If not, no worries. And they were interested. And then, so it was kind of just a lot of, I would say, making something for $0. And then maybe someone gives you a few grand. And if someone gives you a few grand, maybe they give you 10 grand. Then maybe someone else gives you this. So it's just kind of been that ladder, I'd say, of escalating projects. And then just, you're kind of selling yourself and the project, but it's a lot easier when you have like 5 short films where you can be like, look, these are good. Like, if you like these, like, we can do this on a bigger scale. And,
And did you do a short version of Small Talk, a short film?
Yeah, we did our senior thesis, me and Brady and a couple other guys. We did this we did the short film for capstone at Moorhead when we were all going. Me, Brady, Sam, and Dylan. We were all buddies, and we just made it as a short film. I thought it'd be maybe something that could be cool to be expanded into a feature, but I really didn't feel comfortable at the time with my skills or really like see what the whole thing would be expanded, so never really touched on it more. We did make one more pitch film later on called like Urban Luau, which was sort of another like, here's like a scene from the movie, like not as much as a standalone thing, but kind of just like 10 minutes of what it could have been. Those scenes were never really in the final version of the film, but more of just like, again, like this is a vibe and maybe this will resonate with someone. Yeah, so we kind of did it like twice. I mean, the capstone film is closer to the feature than Urban was, but 2 sort of reference films.
And really awesome cast. Talk to me about your cast that you're able to find here. Have you worked with a lot of them? Are they professionals? Are they just kind of friends here? It seemed, and I even caught your cameo in there in the Netflix movie. But talk about the cast and the actors here. Where'd you find them, and how'd you get them on your project?
Yeah, I mean, there is a good handful that were just friends and people I met at MSUM. Nick Beaver, who's the main guy, Travis, like, he's awesome. He's just a filmmaker that I was going to school with. He was a grade above me. He's actually like mainly a DP, and he's really talented as a director of photography. But I've just always been like, you're a good actor, like you should act. And he was in the short film, and then when this came up, I was like, all right, like, do you want to, like, let's run it back, like you're still Travis. And so he's awesome. There's people like Chris Knudsen, who he plays the brother, Sean, in the movie. He was someone from MSUM. He's in the short film. He plays his brother there as well. Craig, his dad, he's a Fargo actor who I met making shorts at MSUM. He's awesome. Amy's the karaoke DJ in the bar, another Moorhead people. So a lot of people were like that, or just like, again, friends. We did do like an open casting call on like the Twin Cities Filmmaker Facebook page, and that's how we met some of our other talent, like Bailey Bolton, who is like awesome. She plays his ex in the film. So that was cool because like when she came in, she did her audition and then she left, and it was just like, okay, that's her. Like, that's awesome. She was so good. Gael, who plays Sam, his friend, she was someone who I had met when we did Walk Away, the short film that we did before this film. And it was just like, oh, you're so fun to be around. You're great, but like such a great hang. I feel like with people, it's like, yes, you have to be a good actor, but like if you're just like a good person and we all get along, like let's just keep making stuff, because if we're miserable on set, like there's no point to do this. So it's just bringing back people that you really love working with is kind of how that whole cast took shape, I guess.
One of the whole reasons I'm doing this podcast is to kind of shine a light on the Midwest and North Dakota film communities. Can you talk a little bit about the community? Do you think it's active? Is it growing? What do you think people don't know about the Midwest filmmaking community?
I mean, I love it. I think there's definitely something there. I mean, even like again in Bismarck, there's people. In Fargo, there's people. Twin Cities, I think, has a really healthy indie scene given its size. We recently like showed this film at MSUM just at their film club to sort of like soft premiere it. And like one of the big things I was telling the film club was just like, hey, like you can make stuff here. Like you can move if you want, but like if you really just want to make stuff, like you just do it. Like there's people here like everywhere. And like there is that community, which is really awesome. And you don't need $1 million and like a Hollywood A-list cast to make a movie, or to make a movie that's enjoyable or good. Like you have people here, you have the materials. There's awesome places like Cinequipped in the Twin Cities where we like got our gear for this movie, and there's so many cool studios, and people like you, people that you meet at these meetups where it's like people that are just passionate. So I think like the passion is there, and I really honestly like enjoy the very raw and personal nature of the indie Midwest film scene. It's just very sincere. I feel like maybe slept on nationally, or I don't know how known it is, but like if you want to make movies, you can definitely do it here, which is great.
Yeah, and I think not only is it slept nationally, I think it's slept on locally. I think so many people, don't think they have to leave to make movies, and
Yeah.
I think Hollywood is not a place anymore.
Yeah.
Just the more I hear of different production companies, different studios getting set up around the world. Talk a little bit. I want to nerd out a little bit here and just kind of show how practical this is. You said you got your equipment from Cinequip. What did you shoot this on, and how long was your shoot? Did you have one block of shooting, or was this kind of on the weekends whenever you could get it?
Shot on the, I believe, Sony FX6. We just rented that. Yeah, it was around 16 days. It was just like one block. I mean, there was like a good group of us, like mostly like the people and friends who were freelancers, who kind of did it over the whole thing. I had other friends that would like help out for a few days, and then they're like, I have to go back to my job, or I have other things. And I was kind of like between jobs at the moment. Like I was about to start my job here in Bismarck. So they or I had just started it, and they when I started, I was like, can I take these 3 weeks off to just knock this out, and then after that I'm yours. And so they were like, yeah, which is very cool of them. Kat was very chill about that.
Yeah. Not everyone would, give you 3 weeks off when you first start here. That's pretty awesome.
That was, when they were like, I was like, awesome. Well, I will be 100% yours as soon as we hit, mid-August or whatever. And then
you also did a really great job with locations. Just using it seemed like a lot of public locations, but it's really thoughtfully used. The time of day, obviously I could tell your lighting had a lot of thought to it. Can you talk a little bit about the low budget nature of it? Do you think anything kind of forced a creative solution that made the film better?
There's one scene which, I mean, honestly, like the whole film, like you said, it had to be shot very like practically and simply, mainly because of budgets, but also just because I thought the story lended itself to it. And Tim Schrader, he shot the film. He did an awesome job with it. I remember probably the biggest curveball we got was there's a day where I won't get too into it, but Travis is going to talk to his friend about something important, and the scene was supposed to be outside, and then it started raining that day, and it was like going to rain all day, and we were like, oh no. And like because of the low budget nature of the shoot, like there's no really reshoot days. Like we had a couple days here and there, but like with people's availabilities and whatnot, it starts to get really tricky or impossible. So we're like, we really should shoot this today. We got to shoot this today. We're getting to the end of the shoot. And, my producer and girlfriend, Sabrina, she had a friend who had like an indoor porch, not gazebo's the term, but like indoor porch thing. And he was like, yeah, like you can use this. And he's actually in the film. He plays the wedding photographer. So the wedding photographer was like, yeah, come use my house. And I honestly think like that scene is so much better because of like the rain and because of this sort of like closed environment and the lighting and the coldness of it. So it was kind of, again, forced to happen that day because of the budget. But in the end, it was like, oh, this is way better. So
That's awesome. Another thing I really dug was the music, your use of music. Where did you get a lot of that music from? Was that one of the challenges of the film, or did you kind of write around that? Did you have the music in mind when you were writing it?
It was interesting because I really, again, felt more like, again, Hair Trigger. I was like, this will be a fun experiment. I'm kind of detached to it. It's not a personal story. Um, and it's also a period piece. And the way the movie is structured, there really isn't any music or excuses to be listening to much music, like on the radio or something. And when I was going into this, I was like, well, this is contemporary. I'm kind of spooked by the idea of like, I mean, you can make a movie where you don't hear songs for sure. But initially I was like, I want to hear music and I want needle drops, but like we can't afford needle drops. So I mean, the first thing was finding like the original music. Like I really just wanted something like very chill and very, and so there's this artist out in New York, Melting Resonance, and he had like commented on like a short film I had made like years ago, like, hey, like this short film, if you want to collaborate, let me know. And I was like, cool. And then like years later I was like, hey, do you still want to like, we're making a feature, and like how much would it cost, like we want to pay you, but like let's see what we can afford. So he came on to build sort of like the original soundtrack. But I still wanted like needle drops, but I was like, maybe that will happen, maybe it won't. But I thought this film, you know, because of the low budget nature, but also like I just like indie filmmaking, and I was like, this should be like a celebration of just indie art in general. And I was like, you know, there's so many indie, like talented indie musical artists out there who are at the same level we are. They're just like local and they just love what they do. And so it was a lot of like reaching out to like bands that my friends liked, or bands that like I found on social media or that I had seen, like Aventide, who's a Bismarck band who I just like saw at Laughing Sun Brewery. I thought they were really cool. I remember just like messaging them, and I was like, I'm making a feature. I'm from here. I saw you. Would you be cool? Would you want to be in this movie? Like, what would it cost? And they're like, awesome. And same thing again with bands in the city like Harlow. Um, I think the funniest one was Harrison Gordon, who is this really awesome, like Midwest emo rock guy based out of Illinois, Normal, Illinois, Chicago, that kind of area, I believe. And I saw one of his songs on like a reel on like Instagram. I was like, oh, this is so good. Like he kind of has like a following. So like, I don't know if this makes any sense. Maybe if he doesn't have a person, we could do it, but maybe he won't even get back to me. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, I love your music. I'm making like a micro budget thing. Could we use a song? How much would it cost? And he like almost like within like a few hours messaged back. And it was like, yeah, you can just use it. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like didn't expect like the response so fast and the willingness, because again, you know, maybe some people are like, I don't know, I'm fine, or they don't care. But like he was so down. And so then we kind of like worked it out. And it's like, well, you know, like let's make it worth your while. And like, I appreciate it. What can we do? And how can we work with you? You're great. And so just getting to collaborate with him and all the indie artists was just like awesome. So
That was awesome. There's so much I think filmmakers can learn from that answer. I think one, you know, you got to start building your tribe. Filmmaking is a team sport, and I love how, you know, you kind of connect with these artists over the years and build into that. I know my first feature film, my composer was someone that messaged me randomly, you know, like years earlier, and then also just the motivation to ask. You know, you almost didn't even message some of those artists because of their following.
yeah.
Yet, you know, they're looking for that exposure, and no harm in asking, you know, and I think people can learn a lot from that. The other thing I want to ask you about your film were those titles, those inner titles for 4th of July and August, showing time passing at first, but then I realized it was showing a kind of repetition, and the main character kind of stuck in a cycle, you know, kind of Groundhog Day almost. They were kind of like pixelated paintings. Where did those come from? What were those? The backgrounds of that stuff. It was really cool.
There's this guy when I went to again Moorhead, met this filmmaker, a really talented artist named Paul, and Paul Budgeon, I believe, unless I'm butchering his name. I'm sorry, Paul, but Paul's great. We met each other at film school, and then since then he kind of became mainly started painting, and I was always like, oh, your stuff's so cool. We never really directly collaborated at school, but I was always like, oh, I'd love to collaborate with you. I'd love to do something. And then in this movie, as the script kind of developed, I was like, all right, there's like kind of a need for these these time slates that like show where we are, what the season is and whatnot. And so I kind of just was like, would you want to collaborate? Would you be down to like, could I hire you to make some of these paintings and to be these sort of wallpapers for the film? And he was just very down again, was like, yeah, I'll do it. And like, which was so cool. And so to have him just kind of effortlessly just like rip off these really awesome paintings that sort of, you know, are loosely related to whatever chunk of film you're going to see. You know, if you went back, I'm sure you'd be like, oh, there's the pool, or like, oh, there's a bowl of cereal. And like,
Yeah, I didn't even catch the connection or the
yeah,
foreshadowing there. But yeah, the wallpaper vibe I definitely got, and I really love that, those inner titles here.
yeah.
Looking back on your journey as an independent filmmaker, what do you think some of the biggest lessons you took with you here? What do you think you're learning? Do you think you're getting better as
Yeah.
time progresses?
You know, I definitely feel more confident. Like I'm nowhere near perfect, and like definitely don't know everything, but I'm starting to feel a little more like comfortable in terms of like direction. And I think the biggest thing is just like understanding what you can do. Like I think, you know, you got to like push yourself and you got to stretch yourself at times to learn. Like you can't learn unless you stretch yourself. But also at certain times, it's good to know what you can pull off, because I think a common thing like with me and other people when you're coming up as a film student or you're even new is like if you overreach too much, I feel like you can almost end up making something that A isn't what you wanted to make, and B it's so far off that you didn't really get any closer to like pulling something off like that. So I think it's just feeling out that ladder of progression is the biggest thing I've learned, is when do you reach and when do you kind of like, you know, settle in and try to knock something out. And that's, I think, huge in terms of like your own development. And then again, just making things that people watch and they're like, so something where people watch and like their feedback and their reviews are like about the movie versus if they're like, oh, the music was cool. And it's like, ah, man, they didn't even like that at all. Like they did, the music is good, but like, it's cool to hear like even on small talk to people and show it to strangers and people are like breaking down the movie and it's like, oh, that's awesome, I'm glad it's connecting. And I feel like I'm at least like growing as like as an amateur indie artist and like finding more of a groove, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely you take some risks creatively. And it does feel so intimate and personal. That's why I was asking how autobiographical is it? And I think that's what you need. You want to watch art like that. You want to watch movies like that. We see the world through our own two eyes. And so once you start watching movies that, you know, be formed by a committee or don't
Mhm.
feel authentic, you know, that's no one wants to watch that. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I really love what you're doing there. What do you think excites you most now? Finishing Small Talk. I know you're gonna start showing this. Have you started submitting this to film festivals?
We've entered like a few festivals. I feel like the big one that would be cool would be TCFF in the Twin Cities. And that's in fall, so we're hoping that it gets accepted there. But whether it does or it doesn't, I think the plan, at least right now, unless someone sees this film and like can give us a compelling reason that they could, you know, get it on streaming or something. I think we're just in the boat of like, let's just put it on like Vimeo behind like a cheap paywall. And then, you know, if anyone wants to watch it, they can. Like, let's just kind of grassroots promote it. Takes off and some people see it, then awesome. And if not, then the few people do see it like it, then that's great. I know the first film we did, or Hair Trigger, you know, we kind of tried to go more of like the sales agent route and getting it on like Prime and stuff. And, you know, there's definitely ups and downs of that. But I think honestly, like going forward, at least right now with this micro budget stuff, I think it's way more about just get it out there, just like put it online, let people watch it. I think if you do want it to succeed and you want more people to see it, it's better to make it available versus try to go through all the red tape sometimes, unless again, like you have a star attached or there's some built-in fan base waiting for this thing. But if it's like an original indie movie, I just think you have to make it accessible and then, you know, see where it goes from there is probably the best route.
I agree. You want to start building your tribe and start building your audience and your community. I do think this has a lot of potential for film festivals.
Mhm.
And they still are kind of a way for people out of nowhere to kind of get recognized
Yeah.
and get some new opportunity. You have something I really relate to of just like almost an unstoppable need to make movies. And I do feel I recognize a kindred spirit in that. Can you talk a little bit about that? You mentioned you have a day job here doing ads, I assume here. Why do you keep at this here? What's so important to tell these longer stories than just ads?
I don't know. I mean, there was like a moment where, like, again, shortly out of high school, not too arbitrarily, but as I was trying to find a hobby and a medium I liked, I was like, oh, I love film. I really like film. I like movies. My friends went to a movie one night and then I wasn't able to make it. So I sat home and I streamed like Birdman and Whiplash. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do movies. Like, if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But like, this is so awesome. I'd rather do this than something I don't want to do. And then, yeah, it was kind of just that drive of like, I want to make a feature. I want to make a feature with my friends more specifically. And how do I do that? It's like, well, I have to get better and I have to learn and like, I have to keep making shorts. That's the only way. The only way to grow is to keep making stuff. And you're always going to look at your last film and be like, oh, why did I do that? The choices. But the point is that you'll learn because your next thing will always be better and should be better. And so I think just that drive to keep evolving and learning as an artist. And then once you're getting more comfortable with who you are and like your style and what you want to say, then now it is more to me like, okay, if I make something, I wanted to like say something that either like resonates with me or it's a movie that I would want to watch, because I feel like if you do that and there is that desire to make something you enjoy, you'll want to make a good movie, and then people by proxy will enjoy watching it and feel that, and like they'll see it and they'll see like that it's like an earnest thing, I feel, and you can tell like a mile away when something doesn't have that. So yeah, it was just that shift for like a decade of like I have to make shorts. I have to just keep I can't stop, whether it's again $0 or $1,000, keep making stuff, keep working so I can like survive, and then when I can make films. And I don't know, it's definitely just great to make things, to collaborate with friends to make them, and then to show them to people and connect with people who are like, oh, I relate to that. And like even screening this film, like there's been so many people that haven't had the exact experience in the film, but they're like, oh, these emotions or like this scene or this moment just hits so close to home. And like, again, the film isn't based off my life exactly, but it's based around experiences and like the feelings I felt when my grandparents have passed away. So it's just like taking real stuff and sharing that, I think, is just really powerful. And the most like human thing you can do is just make stories people relate to.
I agree. I'm glad you talked about just the community aspect of making movies. I think that's something I know I need to talk about more and celebrate more of. It is really awesome to kind of have this little band, this little troupe for a year or two making this film. And that collaboration is really important. And that combination of people is really unique, and it does affect the movie, and I think can really be positive for a community here. And so I hope you keep making movies here in the Midwest, more so North Dakota than Minnesota, but we'll take what we can get for sure. But thank you for talking to me here today, Steven, and also thank you for making such personal and emotional movies here and taking such risks with what you're doing here. Where can people follow your work and keep up with Small Talk as it moves towards its big theatrical release?
I think probably the best way to stay up to date with the movie right now is through Instagram, Small Talk the movie. Otherwise, if you follow me, you would follow updates as well. And I'm on Instagram under Steven Gerald _W. Small Talk also has a page on Facebook. If you look it up, you'll find it. That's probably the best place. And then I post short films and stuff to YouTube right now. I only have my old film Walk Away there. If anyone wants to watch that, you can see that. But that's also a space that I'm sure we'll have more Small Talk stuff in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. I encourage everyone to go and follow Steven and check out Small Talk. And thank you, Steven, for all you do here. And yeah, keep making movies in North Dakota.
Oh yeah, will do. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Film North Dakota podcast, brought to you by the North Dakota Film and Media Association. If you want to learn more or connect with other filmmakers in North Dakota, check us out online at filmnd.org. I'm Matt Fern. Thanks for tuning in, and keep making movies in North Dakota.
Well, I come from North Dakota, where the sun shines brighter and the country's wider than the sky. I come from